Hello, this is Pastor Micah. We're coming from the Church Fellowship Hall this evening for some Bible study together. And tonight we're talking about complaining. Oh, has anybody ever complained before? I have. Yeah. We're going to get a big, broad overview of how God's people Israel complained at different times from the time they were in Egypt to the time they almost went into the promised land. And so we're going to look at some of the things they complained about and why they were complaining and some of the ways God responded to that. But just on the outset, what do you think? Do you think God likes complaining or he doesn't like complaining? What about you? We'll even take it. How do you feel when people are complaining to you?
If it's like very rarely, it's like okay. But if it's those people that just that's all they do is complain every time you see them, it's like,
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel as a parent or adult, can we just all get along? He touched me. He's sitting too close. You know, it says in Philippians chapter 2, do all things without arguing or complaining. So God wants us to get around and get about without complaining to one another, about one another, without complaining to God. You see, you can have problems and be concerned about them, but God doesn't want you to complain about them. He wants you to pray about them, to seek solutions, not think, hey, there's nothing to be done, so I'm just going to whine and mumble and grumble about it. So here we go. We're going to jump into it. I've got some bolded phrases here with some scripture. Those bolded phrases are just my own conjunction of words kind of put together that shared a Pastor Micah perspective sentiment of what the people might have been feeling. Okay. Corbin, you want to read number 1 for us? The bold.
Thanks, Moses. Now Pharaoh is going to work us to death.
That's right. Thanks, Moses. He touched the sarcasm there. Now, Pharaoh's going to work us to death. You know, Pharaoh was approached by Moses about allowing the people some reprieve to go into the wilderness to worship God. Now, Pharaoh met that with a lot of resistance, and he said to the people, he had the taskmasters deliver the message, from now on, when you're making bricks, we're not going to get the straw for you. You got to go get the straw yourselves, and we still want you to make the same amount of bricks. And so here's what the scripture says, right? Exodus 5:19-21, the foreman of the people of Israel saw that they were in trouble when they said, that's the foreman, the taskmasters, you shall by no means reduce your number of bricks, your daily task each day. They met Moses and Aaron, who were waiting for them. As they came out from Pharaoh, and they said to them, so here's what the foreman of Israel said to Moses and Aaron, the Lord look on you and judge you because you have made us stink in the sight of Pharaoh and his servants and have put a sword in their hands to kill us. What are they saying? Hey, you made things worse for us. What are you doing? In fact, Moses and Aaron weren't there to make things worse. They were there to advocate for their people. But the people, all they could see and feel is, hey, we're just going to have to work more now. Okay? What are you doing? I don't know if you've ever felt the weight of extra work. It can be a burden on you. But they laid that solely, not at Pharaoh's feet, and not really complaining to the taskmasters. They're bringing it to Moses. Hey, just keep your nose out of it. You're just making it worse for us. You know, sometimes things get a little worse before they get better, don't they? And that can happen sometimes. And you kind of see that in the life of some of Israel. Boy, as Moses is coming in there with God's help to bring a remedy, some of the things get a little worse before they get their freedom there. All right? Let's get another perspective on complaining here. Claire, you want to read number 2 for us? Yeah. We told you, Moses, just leave us alone. Now we're all going to die. What's the scene? Moses and the people have escaped from Egypt, and they've got the Red Sea on one side, and Pharaoh and his armies are charging them down to kill them. And here's what they said, right? When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not what we said to you in Egypt? Just leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. Like, they're complaining to Moses. Was this your great plan? You just wanted to bring us out here so because they could kill us out here so they'd have a place to bury us? Was there not enough room in Egypt to bury us all? What were they motivated by? Fear, right? They are seeing their lives flash before their eyes, and they're, I guess, so consumed by fear of what Pharaoh may do to them, perhaps they're kind of forgetting all the wonders God had done in Egypt, right? And so you read on to that passage, Moses encourages them for what God's going to do, but hey, they're like, Moses, are you just trying to kill us? What's this all about? Okay, any thoughts on those first two? All right? Those first two happen before they're fully out of Egypt and into the wilderness. Okay, let's go on to number 3. You want to read that one, Sawyer? Go ahead, read it. Yeah, you can read that one. Number 3, the bold text. You can do it. Go on. It's an easy one. That's right. The Israelites are like, we can't drink this, right? They're out in the wilderness. They're traveling after they've crossed the Red Sea, right? When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. Therefore, it was named Marah. And the people grumbled against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? Right? They were thirsty, right? You ever complained because you were thirsty before? Yeah, we're thirsty, Moses. We can't drink this stuff. This stuff is bitter. We need something to drink. And they grumbled against Moses, right? Does he even know what he's doing? And do you know what the resolution to that story was? How God fixed their problems? You see, some of the patience and mercy of God, even as they grumbled in discontent, instead of seeking God in faith to a resolution of a problem, like, it's okay to have problems. I don't have anything to drink. That's a problem. But the way that you approach it, whether here's Moses again, and we don't have anything to drink. Does he even know? Instead of grumbling, we can seek it in a positive attitude. But does anyone know the resolution to that problem? They didn't have anything to drink. What you remember God did for them through Moses? That's right. He took his staff, he struck the rock, and fresh water came on out, enough for all them people to drink. Yeah, Diet Coke. Well, that'd have been something, yeah. Yeah, they probably really would have died in the wilderness. Who drinks Diet Coke? Oh, man. Lord help us. No, but Moses hit the rock, and then they had water to drink. But they were complaining, hey, we can't drink this. Well, that's the second time. All right, we'll get to that one, but this is the first time, and he did it correctly. He did just what God said. But yeah, Randy's jumping ahead. He's foreshadowing, because we'll have a similar instance where the people are like, hey, we're thirsty again. Here we go. Let's go number 4. You ready? Someone want to read number 4 for us?
We're going to starve to death.
Yeah, we're going to starve to death, right? First, hey, we can't drink this. Now, hey, we don't have anything to eat. Exodus chapter 16, 2 and 3. And the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. So everybody's grumbling. Man, and sometimes it's hard to be a leader if the people are, they're just not ever with you. Everyone's complaining against Moses and Aaron. And the people of Israel said to them, would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and the bread. We ate bread to the full. You have brought us out into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. It's like, hey, we're going to starve to death. If we would have at least died in Egypt, we would have died with a full belly. Now, what are you doing, Moses? We need something to eat. And you know what God's resolution to that problem was? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a jar of manna was kept. Yep. Yeah, it was the 10 Commandments, it was the jar of manna, and it was Aaron's budded staff. So those three things. The staff of Aaron that had the bud on it, that blossomed, a jar of manna, and the 10 Commandments. Yeah. Yeah. So their complaint that, hey, we're going to starve it, what was God's answer? Kenny's hinting on it, manna from heaven. Every day, God would allow enough to come down for them to have that collection for the day. And God said, hey, you don't need to do extra, right? Just take what you need. You'll have enough for that day. And when the Sabbath comes, I'll give you enough for that day and the Sabbath day so you don't have to gather, right? So each day, God wanted them to gather afresh, which is kind of a way of reminding them, every day you need to depend on me, right? That I will provide for you, right? There they are complaining, we're not going to have anything to eat, and God gives them manna from heaven. And you know what the name manna means? What is this? That's what the word literally means, because it came down from heaven. They're like, what is this stuff? But it gave them sustenance in their time in the wilderness. And yeah, Kenny is right. One of the things in the Ark of the Covenant was a jar of manna. Now, why do you think God would have them keep a jar of manna in there? What might that symbolize as a reminder to them?
God provided whenever there didn't appear to be anything, but He provided.
Yeah, that God is our provider every day, right? That manna represents in our time of need in the wilderness, God gave us what we need, which is a comforting fact, and I think should move us away from complaining when we remember God can take care of me. He can provide. I think what you see in a lot of these instances is the people get so focused on an overcoming fear or a current problem that they fail to really trust and remember who God is, right? He's the God that can provide.
Do you think they've forgotten why they're there? It was in Egypt in the first place.
Do you think they've forgotten? Well, it's almost like they seem to, what's the word? Idealize their time in Egypt. You'll see some of that in some of the ways to speak. If we were just back in Egypt, right? Things were better when you were slaves, right? No, I think I think they remembered it, but I think sometimes in the midst of a problem they didn't remember their current state. You see, sometimes when you're in between a bad place and you're journeying to the destination, the good place, sometimes you can think, well, at least I was comfortable back there.
So weren't they in kept as punishment for disobedience, Charlie?
No, not in Egypt. No, no, they were enslaved because there arose a Pharaoh who did not remember what Joshua had done for the people. So they were enslaved because the people of Egypt were afraid of what they could become. But that was also prophesied to Abraham, right? When God told Abraham, hey, your people are going to have this land you're walking on. But he said, before that, they will be captives in a foreign land for many years. So you'll find at times in their life they are subjugated because of their sin. But no, they're not there necessarily because of their sin, right? They Joseph saves his family, he saves all of Egypt, and God's people Israel are beloved and prosper in the land of Egypt for many years until there comes a Pharaoh that don't care or remember what they've done and said, "Who are these guys? Let's put our thumb on them." So, and there rose up the cries of the people to God that eventually brought Moses in. Yeah, but they thought they were going to starve to death. Here we go. Corbin, you want to read number 5 for us? Yeah, we're going to die of thirst. All right. First, we're going to starve to death. Now we're going to die of thirst. All right. Here we go. Exodus 17. All the congregation of the people of Israel moved on from the wilderness of Sin by stages, according to the commandment of the Lord, and they camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." And Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test me?" But the people thirsted for water, and they grumbled against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock for thirst?" Okay, I mixed up two of the miracles, right? The first one where the water was bitter and we said that he had struck the rock, I confused that. That's not what he did. That instance, he threw a log in the water. Moses picked up a log and threw it in the water, and the water became sweet to the taste. This is the instance that Kenny had said where he struck the rock, okay? Because there in Meribah, the water was bitter and you couldn't drink it, so he threw a log in there and then it became sweet. And this is, there was no water, and this is where he hit it with the thing. So I got those two mixed up. But there they're complaining again, right? Did you just bring us out of Egypt to kill us, our kids and our animals, right? We are going to go thirsty and die. So they're pretty thirsty, right? What's that another hint at? Hey, we're not going to have what we need, are we? Right? Here we go. Here's a very general one. Number 6. Clara, you want to read number 6 for us? Yeah. Yeah, life's too tough. Things are just hard. This is kind of a very general one. It says, "And the people complained in the hearing of the Lord about their misfortunes." So we don't know exactly what they're complaining about, but just that everything's hard or life is hard, right? "And when the Lord heard it, his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outlying parts of the camp." In this instance, you see some of the judgment of the Lord, right? And as they progress with the complaining, you'll see more and more times God responds in forms of judgment, right? To show, hey, this is not the kind of attitude I require of you, right? Because their complaining suggests what? We don't really trust God all that much, do we? Because if we did believe he was going to handle these problems, we wouldn't be complaining about them. But we are complaining about them, right? And so there you have it. They're just the general misfortunes of the people, all right? Here we go. Let's turn it over. Or go to the second page, number 7 here, right? All right. Before we go into this one, kids, are there any foods you feel like we just have that too much? I get bored of having that all the time. What? What do you think, Corb? Sandwiches, peanut butter and jellies, or turkey. Can we have something besides sandwiches? All right. What about you? Is there something you think you guys just have to eat too much and you wish you just didn't have it so much? Huh? Candy? All right. Well, okay, lay off the candy, I guess. You know, the God's people, Israel, they eventually started complaining about the manna that they were having because every day, guess what they had to eat? Manna. Listen to this. Numbers chapter 11, verse 4. "Now the rabble that was among them had a strong craving." Right? This is actually just a few verses after the last one we just read. "And the people of Israel wept again and said, 'Oh, that we had meat to eat.'" Right? "I want some bacon," or, well, they wouldn't have really ate, well, they didn't have the law yet, or a steak or something good. "We remember the fish we ate in Egypt that cost nothing, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic. But now our strength is dried up, and there is nothing at all but this manna to look at." What's for breakfast? Manna. Lunch? Manna. Dinner? Manna. We're like, hey, can we get something besides manna? You know, back in Egypt, we had the good stuff. And so you have that thought about back in Egypt again, right? But don't you remember, back in Egypt, you were slaves. And God is taking them to a land that's flowing with what? The promised land is flowing with what? Milk and honey. Oh, it's going to be a good land. It's going to be prosperous land. It's going to be a land with grapes as big as your fist. Maybe as big as, right? It took 2 men on poles to carry vines of grapes out of the, I mean, it's going to be a plentiful land, but they're not there yet. And so sometimes in the traveling, right, they're getting worn out. Hey, we're tired of eating manna, right? How do you think that makes God feel? He's there providing for them, bringing them through. And all they can think about is how it was better back in Egypt. Isn't this what they prayed for? God, rescue us. They just don't like it. It's, it's not preferable when they're on the way. We want the good stuff.
Kind of reminds me of Jesus rescuing us,
Yeah.
because any strife that comes along the way as Christians, we whine about, we don't like it, we want better,
Mm-hmm.
hoping God will fix it all for us.
Yep.
And we just sit down and shut up like he tells us, do what, everything is fine.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the parallel, right? When we received salvation from Jesus, God brought us out of slavery to sin, like the Israelites came out of slavery to Egypt. And our promised land, our final destination is what? It's heaven. It's with the Lord for eternity. And so as we walk through this life, what are we doing? That's kind of our wilderness journey, right? I'm hungry or I'm thirsty. God, what are you doing? Can I get something besides this? I'm tired of always seeing
We all
this.
plan.
Yeah. Yep. We do. And so I think sometimes what the perspective of who God is and what is coming for us, what he has in store for us, can allow us to handle our current problems, not with complaining, but with faith and with trust. Okay? Here we go. Number 8. Listen to this one. From his own brother and sister. Oh, man. Listen to us. Not just Moses, Miriam and Aaron. Who are those? That's Moses' siblings, right? Aaron himself was the high priest, and Miriam played a pivotal role with the people, spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman. But you'll find out this really ain't about the person he's married to. Listen to what they say. And they said to him, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. Right? Hey, don't just listen to him, listen to us. Hey, we know what we're doing too. God had positioned Moses as the final authority amongst the people. He's the one that would sit with God face to face, right? I mean, Moses was a humble guy and he was a good leader, but here he's got his own brother and sister complaining to him. And you'll find out there's consequences for the way that they act in this. What you'll see is his sister Miriam actually ends up coming down. I think she gets leprosy. She comes down with a skin ailment because of the way of she talks against Moses. And you understand, when they're talking against Moses, what are they doing? They're talking against God because God has positioned Moses, right? God said, hey, when I speak, I'll speak through Moses, so you listen to what he says. And here they're saying, hey, you don't really just need to listen to Moses. You listen to us. That they didn't have an important part of leadership, but you don't need to complain and run down somebody that God is using for the benefit of all the people. So it wasn't just coming from the masses. Moses was also catching it from his own brother and his sister. And any thoughts on that? Aaron and Miriam complaining about their brother.
Probably some jealousy there too, if you mentioned Moses from guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. There might have been some jealousy, right? We want to feel more important, perhaps. Here we go. Number 9. These big guys are going to kill us. Now remember, these are Pastor Micah paraphrase. Let's go back to Egypt, right? When they came to the promised land, what did they send to the promised land? 12 spies, one from each tribe to scope out the land, to see what it contained, and to get ready to go in. But when the spies came back and reported, only 2 of them were like, yeah, we can do it, right? Joshua and Caleb were like, yeah, God has given us this land. The other 10 were like, whoa, these guys are so big, we will definitely lose. We are not going to beat them, right? And they didn't have any faith. And that attitude among the 10, what happened? It spread amongst all the people. Now, think about where they are. They have come out of Egypt by the great power of God and the working of him in 10 plagues. They saw the miracle of the Red Sea. They came to Mount Sinai where God did mighty wonders, and he was in the clouds and the thunder, and they received the 10 commandments. They've been through the wilderness. They've seen some stuff, and they come to the precipice, right? And many of the leaders we're getting ready to go in, and this is what happens. Then all the congregation raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. And all the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The whole congregation said to them, "Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or that we had died in the wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become a prey. Would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt?" And they said to one another, oh, and this must have stung, "Let us choose a leader and go back to Egypt. Let's get somebody that can get us back," right? God's brought, how does that keep coming to their minds? We're just going to die here. I mean, at least we could have died in Egypt or maybe the wilderness, but to have our families just totally torn apart and killed and become as prey against these giants, boy, we ought to just go back to Egypt. We need to get a new leader. And you see that in the midst of that, Moses and Aaron and Joshua and Caleb, if you read the rest of that chapter, they are totally distraught because what's happened, the whole generation of people are just falling apart. They're crumbling with a lack of faith, and they're complaining. They're complaining. We're just going to die, right? Well, and what's the motivation going there? Fear, right? They are afraid for their lives because all they can see is a hard task in front of them.
Don't forget the rabble among the
Yeah. Well, in some instances, it was the rabble, or it started that way. But you see, at least in this passage, it spread throughout the congregation, right? So you may have an amount of distrust that starts with maybe a problem group of people, but whether that takes or not has a lot to do with the faith of the people. And it spread through the people, didn't it? It really did. Oh man, that's a sad thing. They were right there. They're right there. And because of this sin, this grievous sin of the people of lack of faith, that whole generation didn't see the promised land, did they? They stayed in the wilderness until their time had passed. Now, God ends up forgiving them, but they don't inherit the promise and see what God had in store for them. All right? Here we go. Number 10, Moses, Aaron, get off your high horse, right? We I showed you a picture today. It was in our bulletin about the way the Israelite camp was set up, right? And there at the center, you had the tribe of Levi, right? And you had different groups around the tabernacle. And one of the groups were the ones that were given specifically to the priesthood, right? And so because they were in the priesthood, that part of the tribe of Levi could do certain things that other parts of the tribe of the Levi couldn't do. And we're going to see a bit of jealousy rise up in rebellion in some of them. Here, look, now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and on the son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, took men. And they rose up before Moses with the number of the people of Israel, 250 chiefs of the congregation, chosen from the assembly, well-known men. They assembled themselves together against Moses and against Aaron and said to them, "You have gone too far, for in all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" There's, hey, Moses, Aaron, get off your high horse. What do you mean only specific people can interact in the tabernacle in specific ways? He says, we're all holy to the Lord, which there's a truth